Hey guys, it's Bob Smith from Smith Taekwondo and Pro Sport Kickboxing, and today is December 29th. There's been another church shooting. I got so many things I could say about this, but I'm going to stick to the 5 rules of survival and talk about unarmed security guards. Because here in Hawaii, churches want your congregation to feel like they're taking a stand against violence, and they're recruiting your husbands and fathers to be security, even though you're unarmed in these churches. The church shooting today took place in White Settlement, Texas, and the media is not going to show us a lot of what's going on yet. And if it's somebody who is a threat to the country, if the guy was any sort of a terrorist threat, the media is going to minimize it. If he's a nut job or it's a racial problem, they're going to minimize it. So let's skip past that. Let's talk about the shooting itself, as you guys have probably all seen it. If you haven't, you can find it anywhere on the internet. But first thing is, husbands, dads, brothers, uncles, if your church is recruiting you as a security guard, security for your church, the security team, and you're not carrying a pistol, you're not security, you're a target. That's all you are. If they expect you, and I want you to think about that, they expect you to stand in front of a gunman. The gunman today used a 12-gauge shotgun at a distance of 2 yards on the first or on the second victim that he shot, the usher. I can't even describe the damage that does to a human torso at that range, but it was a armed security officer who took him down with a headshot. So those of you guys who jack around on the range and you think, man, I'm good enough, if you're not pulling off a headshot in 1.5 seconds, you're not good enough. Pulling off a headshot, 1.5 seconds. If you're not doing that on a regular basis and you're doing, freak, I don't care, whatever, if that's what you're doing, then you're just throwing money down the drain, because you are not trained to prepare yourself. This shooting took place so fast that the initial usher, had he been paying attention, he would have had a chance to maybe grab the gun, to do a trained disarm. No. And that just puts a spotlight of realism on it when you're dealing with a real threat. You can go to all the karate gun disarms and Krav Maga classes you want, and I'm sure that there are Krav Maga instructors right now who are saying, oh, he should have done this, I would have done that. And all I'm going to do is say bullshit. 5 rules of survival are: nobody's coming to help you. Now, that congregation was full. There were people sitting in every pew. The usher was caught dead to rights. The guy was 2 yards from him, maybe even 1 yard, and raised a sawed-off shotgun. Who came to help that guy? Nobody. People just sat there. Second man realized what was happening. A second, I don't know if he's an usher or just a member of the congregation, he stands up and he draws his gun so lazy, where he's just like, he didn't even get it out of the holster before the gunman shoots him, puts him down, unfortunately. God rest his soul. The security guard in the back, who was also in the line of fire, he was the third person, and he very quickly drew his weapon and put the gunman down with a headshot. Not only that, but he walked up on him with his gun out, gun on target, and demonstrated good follow-through. So as soon as that happened and all the shooting was done, now all of a sudden you see a bunch of guys coming out of the woodwork with their guns drawn. Not only are they drawn, but they're flagging everyone in the congregation. There is no muscle discipline whatsoever. One guy sticks the gun under his arm. What the hell, dude? You're wearing a holster. Put it back in the holster if you don't need it. But you need to draw quickly and holster reluctantly. So, rule number 1, nobody's coming for you. Nobody came to help that guy. They all just stood there and watched like deer caught in the headlights. Rule number 2, everything is your responsibility. Yes, even that usher that was only 1 yard away. It was his responsibility. Nobody else there was going to save him. The security guard that did put the gunman down, he put him down and moved up, followed through, and then, like I said, people started taking action. Rule number 3, stop the threat. The security guard did that. So the first 3 rules of survival were taken care of. Rule number 4, help who needs to be helped. Here again, everybody went crazy. I mean, people were running around. A couple of people addressed the victims that were down, but everybody else was still kind of hiding in the pews. People were standing up, looking around. They were getting in the way. So if you can't help the situation, you are hindering the situation. Get out of there. Get away. And last, look for work. Now, like I said, the one jackknap stuck his gun under his armpit. How many times do you think he's done that throughout his life? That is his immediate response. Well, shooting is done, put the gun under the armpit. He's probably done that several times before. Now, this is a big firearms no-no. If you're not controlling the muzzle, you're at a disadvantage, and everyone around you is at a disadvantage. And you're the kind of jackknap that's going to get somebody shot by accident. You saw 3 or 4 guys running in, and I hope that everybody who sees this, because I'm sure that a bunch of those guys were recruited as church security. But they were running around like this with their guns out, and they were pointing their muzzles at everyone. That could have been a really bad accident for a really bad day. But rule number 5, look for work. Okay, always be looking for work. If I have to keep my gun on a downed adversary or a downed threat, I have to watch them, I have to get the weapon away from them, and then I have to secure that person. I have to make sure that somebody else secures that weapon. That's where I'm looking for work. I'm looking for somebody like, hey, Johnny, grab that gun, put that up on the altar, put it in the pew where nobody will get to it. Keep it away from everybody else. Get it away. Then you secure the subject. I don't care if you got to use your belt, shoelaces, whatever, but you secure that subject. Even if you think he's dead. Well, Bob, he ain't breathing no more. There ain't no reason to tie his hands. Yes, there is. You're not a doctor. You can't confirm whether or not he's dead or not. And a lot of guys have re-risen to come right back in and take one last shot to get people with them. Take people with them, excuse me. So, rule number 1, nobody's coming for you. Rule number 2, everything is your responsibility. Rule number 3, stop the threat. Rule number 4, save who needs to be saved. And rule number 5, look for work. Again, for rule number 5, there are so many people in that congregation today that one person, the security officer who shot the gunman, he could have been saying, everybody get down, get out, move to the side. You, hey Joe, call 911. Hey Billy Bob, grab that gun. Hey Jesse, Billy Bob, tie his hands up. I got the gun on him, he's not going to do anything. And who has a doctor here? Who's called 911? And then confirm that. And you have tactical communications with everybody. Also, the usher just stood there. If you're in a situation where you see a gun, and the usher was kind of caught because, you know, the guy raised the shotgun on him, he couldn't really do anything other than follow the instructions unless he was just going to make one last Hail Mary and try to take the guy down, which was a shotgun, so there's no way to really do that. It's going to cut him in half anyway. But somebody in that congregation should have said something. There was 100 people sitting there. Somebody should have screamed out, gun. He's got a gun. The other security guards should have been more proactive. The people with the gun should have been more proactive. I can tell you that those guys did not want to be in the fight. They wanted to look like they were proactive afterwards, but you watch that video a couple of times and you're going to see that the security guard took care of everything. The threat was done. Everybody in the congregation saw that it was done, and that's when a couple of the good old boys stepped up and drew their guns and like, I tell you what, I'm going to cover that son of a bitch is what I'm going to do. You know what, if you don't want to be in the fight, don't be in the fight. If you're not helping, you're hindering. So understand that. It's also my point to take out and tell you guys that a lot of people, and this is the majority of the country, I am very pro Second Amendment. I believe that everyone has the right to own a firearm. I said everyone. Everyone. Felons. Second Amendment doesn't say everyone, hey, unless you've been arrested, hey, unless you had a DUI. Second Amendment says everyone. But I also believe in being responsible. You need to train. And there's too many of these good old bubbas and bradas here in Hawaii who think that, I got a gun, I'm good enough. No, you're not. You're never good enough. You are never good enough. So get out and train. Understand what you're doing. If you can't get that gun out of your holster from a concealed carry in 1.5 seconds and deliver a headshot, you are not good enough. If you're one of those guys walking around going, nah, that'll never happen to me. If it does, I'm ready. I'm ready. You're not good enough. You're just fooling yourself. So understand that, because the majority of the people in the country who say, I got a gun, I'm good enough, honey. Look here, I got my gun. And we see crap on the YouTube every day of guys shooting themselves, shooting holes through the wall, shooting the ceiling, negligent discharges. Some people call it accidents. It's not an accident. You're a dumbass if you can't operate your weapon correctly. So it's a negligent discharge. But you saw a bunch of these guys in the church today in that video. I mean, just on everybody. I would have been pissed if I was sitting in that congregation and somebody came up and they pointed their gun at me. I would have stripped that gun out of their hand and probably pointed it back at them and possibly pulled the trigger, because that's the way I'm trained. But anyway, take a good look at that video and quit thinking that it'll never happen to you. Buy a firearm and get out and train. This is Bob Smith. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. Out.